Hello, it is Tuesday the 13th of October 2020. I hope you all had a great weekend and didn't rain too much and the weather's not been getting you down. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Soundtoys Filter Freak and how I used it in the production for my new single, Military Industrial Complex. And we're going to be looking at the section right before the final chorus.
Now this conjunction,
according to the Soundtoys website, Filter Freak is a resonant analog filter with fat analog sweeps, pounding filter rhythms, big hardware sound, with a dual version for double the analog attitude. These are the 5 instruments that make use of the Filter Freak in this section. Bass, a triple stacked kick drum, a hat shaker combo, a sequencer, and a double layered piano. Let's bypass Filter Freak on each of the 5 instruments. It's not that great. It's kind of messy. They're kind of getting in each other's way. Let's go through each of the instruments individually and see what it is that Filter Freak is doing for them. We'll start with the bass. It's an Omnisphere patch. It's a Hip Hop 909 bass. Let's have a listen to what it sounds like with the Filter Freak in bypass. Let's take the Filter Freak out of bypass. As you can see, we've got a couple of things going on. We're using the step option to trigger the bass, and we're automating the dry-wet blend. And you can hear that as the dry-wet blends in, it's bringing the bass more into the mids. The other thing that we've got going on is we're using the step to trigger the bass, and we've got it set so it's just being triggered with the very with a transient, with the peak of the bass. And in doing that, it's bringing out the percussive energy of this bass effect. So it's building us a little bit of tension, it's building up a little bit of energy and excitement into the build. It's kind of leading us up to that final chorus. Next up, let's have a listen to this triple stacked kick with Filter Freak in bypass. Let's take Filter Freak out of bypass and have a listen again. And you'll notice that we've got a couple of things going on here. We've got the ADSR for a trigger, and we're using some automation to vary the modulation. And we're doing that on every alternate kick. Like the bass, the Filter Freak is lifting the kick more into that kind of mid-range. It's giving it more top. It's making it sound more synthetic, I think. It's also giving it more of a percussive hit. And we're using this automation on the modulation to introduce a little bit of variance from one kick to the other. So it's just shifting it up a bit, and that's just helping catch your ear when it's set into the busy mix. Next up, we have our hi-hat shaker combo. Let's have a listen to what the hi-hat sounds like without the Filter Freak. Let's put the Filter Freak back in. Like we did with the kick, we're using the ADSR as a trigger. And like with the kick, we've got some automation going on. But this time, we're automating from wet to dry. Filter Freak is really thinning out the hi-hat. It's really making it kind of sit in just those high frequencies. This is leaving a lot of room for the pianos. Again, we're using the ADSR like we did with the kick drum. And you can see we've got the trigger set really deep this time relative to the input signal. And what I'm doing there is I'm actually catching the shaker. And finally, we have that wet, dry blend. A little bit like we did with the 909 bass, it's bringing the hi-hat into the mids. It's building that sense of tension. It's making it more prevalent. Next up, we have our sequencer, and we're using the Arturia ARP 2600V. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like with Filter Freak in bypass. Let's take Filter Freak out of bypass. I'm going to notice a couple of things. Firstly, we're just using Filter Freak. Everything else so far has been Filter Freak 2. So we've just got the one bandwidth working here. And we're using the LFO to trigger the filtering. Again, the Filter Freak is kind of pushing the synth more into those mids. It's creating an almost kind of wah-wah-like effect. The LFO, which we've got set at 30 Hertz, is allowing us to time in what we want from that modulation really specifically. And it's creating this great shifting texture for the synth. And here we go with our double layered piano. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like with the Filter Freak in bypass. Let's drop the Filter Freak back in. Like with the sequencer, we're using just Filter Freak. We're not using Filter Freak 2, so we've just got this one bandwidth going. And this time, we're using the rhythm option to control the modulation. And I love that wah-wahing effect that you get from this. I really, really do love it. I never thought you could get a piano to sound quite like that. It's really cool. The rhythm option is giving us this really great kind of musical kind of feel to how the piano is being wahhed. We've got a little bit of groove going on here. We've introduced a little bit of shuffle. Now let's have a listen again to all 5 instruments together. But this time, let's take Filter Freak out of bypass on each of the tracks and have a listen to what that sounds like. And you can hear that we've got a lot more shifting texture, particularly from that piano, particularly from the synth. The automation on the hi-hat and on the bass is creating that sort of growing sense of tension and energy and anticipation of the chorus coming up. And we have that variation built into the modulation on the kick, just allowing it to sort of shift a little bit, giving that little bit of extra ear candy going on down in the center of the track. Let's take those 5 instruments, drop them back into context, and let's have a listen to how they're working within the entire production.
I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
Thanks to all the Filter Freak that we've got going on there, all that filtering happening, the piano part, the new piano part, is sitting very nice on top. We got plenty of room for President Trump's voice. He'd appreciate that. We've also got lots of room for the shifting ambient texture around the sides. And as the riser comes in, that is sitting very happily on the sides as well. Filter Freak is a fantastic creative tool to have in your production toolbox. It allows you to introduce a great deal of variation and modulation in a very musical and emotional way, and it does so with that characteristic analog flavor that we all love about sound toys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Military Industrial Complex is out now on all platforms. There are links in the description, links in the comments, and you can check out the video here on YouTube. There's a link floating around on the screen somewhere. Click on it, have a look at the video. It took me ages to do it. I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of a lyric video, kind of a visualizer. Please let me know in the comments, let me know on social media what you think of it. I'd love to hear your opinion. Until next Tuesday, good night and good noise. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications.
Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them. I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital. I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.